council to order. Item number 1, call to order and certification of a quorum.
Mayor Sean Skipworth, Mayor Pro Tem Johnny Simpson,
Here.
Councilwoman Jenna Simpson, Councilmember Mark Townsend,
Here.
Councilmember Jesse Brantley,
Here.
Councilmember Bill Schick,
Here.
Councilmember Fred Linton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 2, invocation. Councilmember Brantley, could you lead us in the invocation? And Councilmember Simpson, can you lead us in the pledges?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for bringing here safely. God, we pray that you will watch over us. God, that you would guide us. God, that you would give us knowledge and wisdom. It's in your Son, Jesus' name, we pray and for his sake. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, council members Brantley and Simpson. Item number 4, proclamations and awards. Do we have any?
No.
All right, moving on. Item number 5, announcements and presentations. Announcements concerning items of community interest. No action will be taken or discussed. Council member comments concerning items of community interest in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.0415. We'll start with Council member Simpson.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. Ask you to mark your calendars for the 2024 Black Tie Texas event benefiting Bayou Animal Services, hosted by the Bayou Friends Forever organization. There's going to be some exciting activities at this year's event to help with Best Friends Forever group raise funds for the animal shelter. More information can be found on the Bayou Friends Forever Facebook page. The Dickinson Public Library is hosting a cozy winter reading challenge open to all ages. Dive into a good book, share reviews, and the more reviews that you post, you take a shot at snagging the grand prize, a new e-reader. Check out the Dickinson Public Library on Facebook for more information. Dickinson ISD is hiring bus drivers. We've got great benefits and opportunities in the district. Visit dickinsonisd.org/jobs for all listings at Dickinson ISD. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Simpson. Councilmember Townsend.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. We froze to death last week. We're going to float off this week, so be careful. Got one more night of rough rain, so be careful on the roads. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you, Councilmember Townsend. Councilmember Brantley.
Thank you, everybody that's here tonight. Thank you, everybody online for participating, joining in. I'm going to keep it short tonight. Normally, I like to recognize staff, but we have a number of awards, Shine Awards this evening, so I do not want to get in the way of that. So thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thank you, Councilmember Brantley. Councilmember Schick.
Thank you, everybody.
For coming tonight. I had the privilege to attend the mayor council dinner at Clear Lake Shores the other day. Met a lot of great people. I would encourage the council and the mayor to attend these. It's a great networking. Lets us know what they're doing, but also may give us ideas of what we can do better. I posted that I would take information on the ditches in the area that were not flowing during the rain. And I was somewhat surprised. I got a tremendous response to that post. So I've spent the last 2 days visiting with homeowners and clearing ditches out. And I want to thank Alexis. He sent a set of guys over there that literally I had to follow them to the houses to take care of it. We took care of a lot of problems over the last couple of days, and I thank him for that. And we got a few more to take care of. I met with Theo and Habitat for Humanity, I believe in December after the meeting. We had a great meeting. Habitat wants to build some houses in the area that we desperately need. And we have some lots that are available for them. So that's an ongoing process. I'm really looking forward to getting that program moving where we can turn some of these empty, derelict lots and houses that we have into homes. I spent, last week I installed a couple of defibrillators for the girls softball and for the swim team out there. The Rotary donated them. it was great talking to both organizations. I'm kind of excited about it. Derek has volunteered to help train some people. We appreciate that for Derek, and anybody interested in taking the training. Derek said he would post it and we all can get trained on these automatic defibrillators. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Councilmember Schick. Councilmember Linton.
Good evening, everybody. Council, I met with the city manager at the end of December after our last council meeting and talked about several things, park status and locations and the various locations in town that we're looking at establishing parts. I've stated before, I'll restate it. It's at the top of my wants list, needs list, of course, drainage and streets, infrastructure and items like that. But the wants, parks is going to be at the top of my list until it's done or I'm gone, whichever comes first. So I also spoke about the police station, EMS, sidewalks completion, the corner over here at 517 and Highway 3. Looks like there's approximately 130 feet of sidewalks that is not connecting. I believe I measured about 5 miles in one direction and 5 miles or 3.2 miles in the other direction. So it's about 130 feet, hoping that we can get that. I believe Chase is looking to that, and I'll get a status on that next month. Also asked about the Red, White, and Bayou Festival. I am a musician, as many of you know, and so I support the arts. So want to see what we can do to help push that along, possibly during before summer when it gets too hot or at the end of summer. And also talked with him about, with city manager Theo, about the text dots, various issues, the overpass, flooding near the overpass at 45 and 517, and as well as medians and the potential for medians to be built with their impact with emergency vehicles. So, and I left a message for David Lazaro, Galveston County area engineer with TxDOT, to discuss some of these things. Also, discussed ordinances, cleaning up. I'm going to do a presentation for the city. I was hoping to do it in November, but on AI, part of my job involves dealing with AI, and I believe that the city can benefit from this. AI is currently being used in municipalities for several reasons. One of the areas that I can see that can help the city is parsing through all the ordinances we have and identifying superseded, antiquated, duplicative ordinances, and acting as an elaborate search engine, so it cuts down on the man hours used to parse through all that information. Also discussed the Harbor Playhouse. Glad to hear that Bill was working on that as well. Yvonne, I talked with her about getting a updated GIS map of the city. So I use Google Earth as a map of the city and various layers to educate myself on where the drainage is, where the water department is, where's the water coming from, water wells and whatnot, and various issues. And it's very helpful, good visual tool. Last couple of items. I met with Alexis Santiago on Friday, the 5th of January, right after that hard rain we had. My manager was nice enough to allow me to work a half day. So while the rain was still, we still had some drainage going on, I got with Alexis, and he was nice enough, and we drove around town to look at some of the worst, drainage issues that we have in the city. And that was very educational. It's always great to get out and see it for yourself instead of reading it in a document. Also on the 17th, attended the IT infrastructure project status meeting, and I believe we're going to have an update on that sometime here soon. Also attended the planning and zoning joint city council and planning and zoning meeting that evening. And then this morning I attended a drainage meeting and got a status on some of the drainage projects that are in progress and upcoming. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is I always try to throw some science in there. This Thursday is NASA's annual day of remembrance for all the people in the space program that have paid the ultimate price, helping us explore the low Earth orbit. And I just wanted to, President Reagan, during the Challenger accident, he had it made a reference to a poem. And then also, and just FYI, to provide some context, I was involved with astronaut training back in '98 for about 3 years, and I knew some of the members of the Columbia crew personally. So anywho, I'll try to get through this without becoming too emotional, but I did want to mention it just out of respect for them. The poem was written by John Gillespie McGee, and it's called High Flight. And Reagan's comment actually paraphrased some of it. But the poem goes as follows. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of, wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence, hovering there. I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air, up the long, delirious, burning blue. I've topped the windswept heights with easy grace, where never lark or even eagle flew. And while with silent lifting mind I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touch the face of God. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Councilmember Linton. I would like to welcome everybody here, both in person and online. I'll keep my comments brief in the interest of time. I'll say in between the last regular council meeting and this one, I attended the joint planning and zoning and city council meeting to work on the Uniform Development Code. I've also had multiple Houston-Galveston area council meetings around the bylaws and board composition committee, finance committee meetings with HGAC. And the annual meeting was on last Friday, along with the regular monthly board meeting. Still working on trying to get the funding right now. The biggest thing that catches my attention with HGAC, along with being on the board and trying to get the funding, is working on getting funding for 1266. We're in the list. So far, we've secured about $14 million in order to redo 1266, put some street lights and some sidewalks down that area. But working on trying to get more and working on trying to execute the funding we do have. But that is all I have. And by way of comments, item 5B, city manager update.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council.
One more thing I also wanted to admit, I attended the IT infrastructure meeting with Councilman Linton as well.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, thank you very much. This evening is a very special evening. This is a great opportunity for us because with the new year upon us, we have an opportunity to really shine a light on the staff members that really provide great service and responsiveness to our community. And the way we do that is through our Shine awards and the Example of Excellence award. Very briefly, our Shine awards and the Example of Excellence award is chosen by committee after a nomination process. And so first we look at how many people nominated the employee, the notes that kind of came with that nomination, as well as especially for the Example of Excellence award, taking into account all of those things. But also for this Example of Excellence award, that award goes to a department head. So it's also people who have, department head nominations for that person, really looking for team players with the departments, someone who lends a hand, and things of that nature. So it was kind of the criteria used. The Shine recipients, most of them are here. We have one who could not be here, unfortunately ill this evening. It seems to be getting around this time of year. So I want to start off with our service award, because Shine starts with an S. And we have two recipients of this award. The service award, we're really looking for in the nomination people who are seen as the ones that go above and beyond to take on the job duties that are not the ones that are always listed on a job description. And so the recipients of our service award, our first one, is a member of the police department. and many of you know him, Sergeant Michael Montgomery. Our second recipient of the service award is someone who also goes above and beyond, working with multiple departments and other entities that aren't necessarily directly tied to the city organization itself, but works ancillary to it. She's always somebody who, whenever we need community outreach, if we ever need somebody to lend a hand in the community as a whole, she's always been there. And so I'm very eager to give the second service award and provide that to our Deputy Fire Marshal, Community Development, Amber Phillips. The second award, humility, for the evening really goes to people who don't really care about their job title. They just worry about getting the job done. And when the nominations came through, there were really two that stood out for humility. People that in their departments, they always knew they could count on this person to be a rock and to represent the department to the best of their ability. The first recipient of the Humility Award is a member of the police department, Officer Yesenia Gonzalez. The second recipient of the Humility Award is someone who, as the nominations went, she's someone who really goes out of her way, but also not necessarily likes a whole lot of attention. So I'm sure this may not be, at least from the nomination, may not be the most favorite moment, just because she does really embody humility. She just wants to do the work, do great work, serve this community, and serve her fellow peers. And the second award goes to our community outreach coordinator with the Bayou Animal Services, Leah Lyles. Next up is integrity. This nomination was relatively easy because we received nominations from so many departments for this person, and she really does embody integrity because the role that she serves the city, her role requires her to work on many of the, not just the professional life of the staff, but also their personal life, because she works in our HR function of the city. So being able to make sure that the benefits are timely done, and that people can go to them, go to her whenever there's an issue. And she has built a lot of trust with the staff. And so our recipient of the Integrity Award goes to our senior HR generalist, Sloan Miranda. Nobility is the next award. The Nobility Award is something that goes out to someone who, amongst all the departments and within the department itself, we're looking for nominations for someone who upheld the highest standard, even in the times of whether it's distress or crisis or just change, someone that was a rock to the people around her. Obviously, the past year for this department has been a little bit of turmoil because, there's been a lot of work being done on the foundation of the building. Had to be staff and items being moved to the depot to be able to provide children's programming through the summer. And now, as we speak, transitioning and slowly transitioning back to the library. But through all of that, we had an employee that really stood out, and it showed in the nominations. Youth Services Manager for the Dickinson Public Library, Brianna Long. Now, for the Excellence Award, I'd like to start off with, if we could at least, even though he cannot be here, I think he does deserve our recognition. This person who's not here this evening is someone who, in the nomination process, was somebody who really stood out as a person that other people leaned on for information. They thought of as in many ways, a subject matter expert on certain items, was a leader amongst peers and on that shift. And so it was great to see within the police department the type of nomination process that led to this person's eventual award. So if we could, even though he cannot be here, if we could just take a moment to highlight from our police department, Sergeant Jeffrey Peterson. I hope he gets well very soon. Next up for the Excellence Award, our second Excellence Award. In our Excellence Award, we're looking at efficiency and effectiveness every day. I can say that this person, not just on the nomination, but having kind of seen it, not necessarily firsthand, but secondhand, a person who really has worked very hard to not just elevate her role, elevate the processes that surround her, the people around her, but to elevate everyone around her. The nomination process and the notes from it, reflected the things that were being observed by executive leadership. The person that is going to win the Excellence Award, the second of which is our permit technician with community development, Nora Lucio. Last of the awards, but certainly not least, is the city manager's Example of Excellence Award. Again, this is something that's by peers nominating a fellow department head. In this one here this year, the Example of Excellence Award goes to this person because we've had, in the year of this department, there's been a lot of change. There's also been a lot of struggle in the sense of sometimes it's, we like to adopt out our animals, but unfortunately sometimes we get them a little more often than we can actually get them adopted out. So it always causes strain on resources, strain on space. But this person always has a smile. Also helps other departments. There are times, in fact, I would say probably one of the strongest nominations that we received was from our Public Works Director reaching out and saying how often and how grateful he is for this department head being a part of the team because of them being neighbors. And sometimes they, being good neighbors is you can share resources and ideas and things of that nature. So the recipient of the city manager's example of excellence award goes to the shelter manager for Bayou Animal Services, Nina Baker. Next up, we have some staff updates. Hopefully, our first staff update is with being Todd Suckup. Hopefully, you can follow that up pretty well, sir. So Todd is going to come give us a brief update coming from the Community Development Division of the city.
Good
Thank you, Tom.
evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Just a brief update on, I presented last month. I just have a brief update on the substandard structure program. The past couple weeks, we've had 11 demolitions. 10 were done by city contractor. And last minute, we got one of them. We got the homeowner to complete it. Just to preempt a couple questions that may come up in the future. There's a couple properties, one on Dietz Road. There's still a van located out there. As soon as it dries out, Mike Phillips, he'll start a dangerous or a junk vehicle case on it. And then one on 1600 Hughes, it doesn't look like it's been completed. That's actually 3 properties. And to the rear of the property, it hadn't been cleaned off because that's actually Texas City. So that stuff was left. Other than that, it's just been business as usual.
Thanks, Todd. All right, next up, do we have, how many of those before and afters do we have, by the way, just for real quick? So, okay. So as you can see, we're taking, community development has really been working really hard on working on some of those, buildings and so forth that have been kind of an eyesore and also a public nuisance for many, many, many years. So, those properties don't get into those conditions overnight. So next up on staff update, we have Julianne Lane and Alexis Santiago. Are y'all coming up together? Okay, fair enough.
That's really loud. I'm a loud person, so I apologize. Council, I want to say first and foremost, thank you for being so patient with our department. This has been quite the experience in librarianship for us as we navigated from, being books to programming 100%. The renovation inside the library is nearing completion. That's good news. Very good news. We are anticipating a final walkthrough with Branch Construction, hopefully mid-February. Hit the punch list and hopefully knock the whatever's little left to get done, and anticipating hopefully opening by the end of the first week of March. I may be pushing that, but that's the goal. This last week, we had our subcontractors in from Demco. They're the ones we contracted all the furniture and shelving with the management district's funding. We are so grateful for that, by the way. Thank you very much. This has enabled us to not only just put new shelving in and some furniture, the whole library floor is brand new. So as patrons come in, it's going to be a new library. It's very exciting. The library has paused services until we have reopened. So from this point forward, we are encouraging all of our patrons and community members to utilize the rest of the Galveston County library system for any kind of help they need. It's important that we lean on all of our library system members to make sure that the gap for this next month and a half isn't too bad for them. We would also, the remainder of this week. So we're going to be cleaning and organizing. We are in the building along with the contractors and trying to get everything ready. We are going to start shelving books first thing next week. So you will not see our librarians because we will be opening tons of boxes. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Smile. I want big smiles, excitement. the books are coming back.
Just thank you very much for everything y'all have done to adapt to all the changes and everything. All the program's been pretty awesome.
It's been great. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
If
Are you
need
planning
anything-
a re-grand opening?
Yes, yes. Once I have a specific date. I don't want to start yet. So I keep saying first week of March until we do that walkthrough. I don't want to really say exact date, but you guys will all get a personal invitation. My shining face will be there going, hello. So anything else you guys need? Alexis is here as support, any kind of contracting discussions. you guys
When I
have.
did the ride along with Lexus looking at drainage, man, that's loud. Anywho, we walked through the library. I got to see it as well while there were, improvements were in progress. Looks good.
It's fantastic. I'm not going to say it brought tears to my eyes. And you know, you guys, that's hard. But thank you so much.
Our last staff update is from Gina Vega, our court administrator.
Good evening. Mine's just a brief update as to what the court's been up to. Court has filed fourth quarter, and the quarter was from October 1st to December 31st. As far as numbers, we were down about 18,000. The only difference is legislature has made it possible for people to come in, and it's gotten a little easier for us to be able to take care of them at the window. So we're able to give them a little more options rather than them being, if they have a warrant, if they're afraid to come into court, there's no need to be afraid because we're always willing to work with them. As far as citations that were filed fourth quarter, there was about 702, and there was a difference of maybe 23 from last year's fourth quarter. So everything is about the same. And as far as warrants being issued, warrants were down this quarter, but because, like I said, we're able to give them a lot more options rather than issuing the warrant, we give them a little bit more time to come in and take care of their citations. So they shouldn't be afraid to come in and talk to us. Do you have any questions for me? Okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Gina. Next subject for council, just so you know, in regard to budget, one of the things I've tasked the staff with is that I want to get all of the budget requests in March, or probably about early to mid-March, so that we can kind of go through the process of looking at the things that will go into the operational budget for passage of council for around August, September for the next fiscal year. But to also highlight maybe capital projects or other initiatives that would be better suited for one of the other entities, like say Dickinson Management District and the Economic Development Corporation. But we want to highlight those in March and April because kind of concurrently they're trying to get their budgets done. And now historically, we've not had that kind of coordination. So what I'm trying to do is to make sure that if we are going to make those asks, those budget requests, that it gives DMD and the EDC knowledge of that around April, and then they can start making decisions on if they're going to embed certain things into the DMD or EDC budget. And so that you have much more lead time rather than just one day coming in and say, hey, we have a request for this thing. And, that was asked for maybe a week before. We want to try to get away from that, and also try to ensure that we are kind of coordinating the resources better of all three entities. So the goal is March to kind of have all those requests in, use the month of April to highlight where the best places are for those things to go. I would also say that that'll be the time that we're going to really start looking at if we're going to be looking at doing some major capital improvement project in the future, that we start piling up especially those large drainage projects that could help entire neighborhoods, that, for decades have been having to deal with stormwater. I have a feeling that we'll be putting a lot of those projects on a capital improvement finance plan, and probably look at 2025 being a year for us to give people the option or give council the option on how they would like to fund that. But I think we do have about 7. Right now, we've highlighted at least 7 major projects that would help made, large areas of town with that retaining water. Especially, and some of them are notorious for 1-inch rain and having streets flooded and things of that nature. So we want to try to work on those. So that's kind of what we're doing in the budget side of things. So just be ready. You'll start kind of hearing little things, especially around April, as we're trying to parse out those different expenditures. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Townsend.
On the, on your maintenance plan, the one on the Hughes Road project,
Yes, sir.
we discussed it once before. Are the feds putting that money on hold? Or are we going to be able to do that project?
As of right now, from what I understand from Melissa Washington with the General Land Office, that while they were looking at different federal funding and pulling some back, that right now it does not look like that the project on Hughes Road is one of them that they're looking at right now as
Where's
one
it
of
go?
those. As far as I know, until I'm told otherwise, I've been told to move forward, and that's coming from the GLO at this time.
All right, and then, we talked once before, we had a project about the phone system. Are we still doing that?
Yes, sir. So.
Upgrade?
Yes, sir. The voice over IP. I believe actually Mina is currently working on the vendor that would actually come in, change them all out and everything, because Avaya is actually out of business, so there's no coverage for it. So we want to go to one that actually has a warranty and some customer service, because our phone tree is a mess and we have nobody we can turn to fix it because they went out of business.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Item number 6, public comments. Members of the public are invited to give comments at this time, lasting not longer than 3 minutes. Comments may be general in nature or may address a specific agenda item and should be directed at the entire council, not individual members of council or staff. Any speaker making personal attacks or using vulgar or profane language shall forfeit his or her remaining time and shall be seated. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the city council may not deliberate. And first up, we have Dana Hernandez.
Hi, how are y'all? I'm here to
Please
bring
state your name and address for the record.
Dana Hernandez, 1910 Pine Grove, Dickinson, Texas, 77539. I'm here to bring attention to our little dead end section of Pine Grove off Dietz and Yukon. I don't know, can you pass these or can I approach? It's a mess. We have drainage issues. The street is all cracked up. I'm not familiar and up to date with everything y'all are doing, and I'm not aware of anything that's in place for our area, but it's a mess. And the pictures that I'm handing out are what's there on a light rain, and there are times when it flows like a river down our street. The cement, the drainage collapsed recently, and it flooded even more. I mean, if you see, it's just a total mess. And I was just trying to see if there's any help in sight.
Can I just ask her real quick have you had a chance have you met Alexis Santiago out there in any way? Alexis Santiago. This gentleman right here is our Public Works Director.
I don't remember if it was him. There was a lady when I called about the drainage collapsing that she came out with people and they propped it up with her brick.
That's not good.
And they did eventually come out and get that up, but that's not fixing the issues.
Sure.
The street is, crumbled all over. And on one side of Yukon, and in our whole neighborhood, all the streets are redone, but our little dead end section just got forgotten about, and we need help because, if you see, this is now what's going to happen tomorrow morning. My street was so flooded, I couldn't get out to my car. I had to crawl over the seat, from the passenger side, just so I wouldn't get completely soaked before I go to work. Like, it's an issue and we need help. You know, we really do need help over there.
Well, I'm going to direct if Alexis can get with you and y'all can exchange some information, and I'll definitely make sure he gives my information to you as well.
Okay, and is there, I guess my next question is there, because I hear y'all now talking that there are projects in place, but is there anything in our area that is already in place? Because we were told that the funding was cut and that nothing's going to happen.
Well, I have to talk with again, that's going to be Alexis with Public Works. That's going to be able to answer that up here, just because there's a deliberation, deal up here we can do. What I'm saying is if we can
Okay.
contact him, we can work, and I assure you, I'm sure we can get to a solution like we
Okay.
normally do.
I hope so.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
so
ma'am.
much.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Up next, we have Joe Wilburn.
Joe Wilburn, 1309 Forest Cove, Dickinson. It seems like we're holding a lot of people accountable these days for for things that go wrong in the city, except for one person. And the city manager is making about in excess of $250,000 a year. And he's let go since he's been here about 128 people. The latest being Cortland Holman, who he spoke so highly of when I was on the EDC. And now I understand that he wasn't quite the guy that he should have been or whatever, maybe needed the payroll for something else. But, a lot of questions were asked I was sitting down at the tent during the recall signatures, and people were asking, what's this about, and why is the rest of the council going along with the non-transparency that is happening in Dickinson? Why do we not have an audit? And the city manager has blamed the past administration on this financial audit through his speeches. And it's been 3 years, since that prior administration gone. A good manager would have come in and said, hey, the first thing we need to do is a financial audit on this city because I don't want to be caught in a trap. But if I don't do one, I can always blame it on somebody else. There's plenty of people to blame, but I'm telling you that the people that I've seen that have came and signed a recall position against the mayor, who I actually think is a brilliant man. I don't think finance is one of his key points, but this man is in charge of the finance, and we have not had a city audit since the mayor has been a mayor, and we have not had an audit since he's been hired on with his almost $300,000 a year salary that the citizens are paying. There's a lot of mad people. There's a lot of Sean's friends that signed that petition. It's going to get a lot worse. You need to look at yourselves and ask yourself, will you be the next one that has led down the hallway like a prisoner to his doom? I know you know that one. You're a fan of the arts, the old Merle Haggard song where the guy goes down the hallway, the warden leads a prisoner down the hallway to his doom. Will y'all be around? Will you stick around and let this guy lead you down that hallway? Because nobody is standing up here. Nobody. There's not a loud voice in the room. The city is in despair. No records of money being spent from the EDC are being turned over. They're being asked for. There's no audit. People are getting discharged daily. Finance directors are leaving. Hopefully y'all can see that there's a problem with one person. One person has just led another prisoner down the hallway.
Your time's up, Mr. Wilburn. Thank
He's
you.
leading it.
All right, next we have Mr. Wally Dietz.
Good evening, council. This has got to be a first, Mayor Pro Tem. I don't think the mayor misses very many meetings. Wally Dietz, 5201 Dessel Drive, Dickinson. So I wanted to bring something to the attention of council that you may or may not be aware of, but certainly the public's not. I have in my possession here a status update for Creekside apartments in Dickinson, Texas. And it appears that it was compiled by the owners of Creekside in reference to negotiations that they're doing with the city. And it was sent out on January 22nd this year. My concern is that in reading through this document, and it's about 6 or 7 pages, is that there are several references to the mayor being in direct negotiations with these guys on a 60 acre land deal that includes, it's a pretty complicated deal from what little is in this report. But there's language in here like apparently they were going back and forth with the mayor on critical points. And they reference ownership received an email response on December 11th from Mayor Skipworth. And so they decided to have a meeting instead of going back and forth on emails. There's other references in here where they needed numbers from financial advisor to satisfy some EDC requirements. And the report states that the numbers in the updated proposal was then submitted to the mayor, and then there's a further reference that says, at the moment, ownership continues to wait for guidance and feedback from the mayor. However, due to illness for the past week, the mayor indicated he will not be able to sit down with the city's team until the week of January 22nd, which is this week. My concern is that I don't recall anything. Maybe you guys did, delegate authority to the mayor to negotiate on behalf of the city or behalf of this council. But, this is a 7-member board and you all have 1 vote. If you haven't read this document, it went to the Building Standards Commission, and it's apparently a regular report. I encourage you to do that. And you need to keep the citizens informed of what's going on this. This is a major development potentially and a major cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dietz. Now have Mr. Rich Gustafson. Forgive me if I mispronounced your name.
Oh, that's fine. No problem. My name's Richard Gustafson. I live at 12234 2nd Street. I've been a resident of Galveston County for 57 years. Lamarck, Santa Fe, and Dickinson. And I am the most embarrassed person of Galveston County that I could possibly be right now, in all honesty. From all the publicity and everything that's going on, it's unreal. And I think from all of y'all that are voted in, transparency is first and foremost, transparency. And an audit from the city council is the first thing we need in transparency. And the mayor, we do team meetings where I work. I'm a blue collar worker, but we still do teams meeting. There's no reason that mayor shouldn't be on this call right now. No reason whatsoever. There shouldn't be a team meeting with him on this call. There's no way that you're going to let a pro mayor take your fall over everything that's been going down right now. He put you in a hot seat, buddy. Sorry, but he did. I pay a lot of taxes, and so do these people right here. A lot of taxes, and we get nothing from y'all on where our money goes. No audits, no nothing. You sit here and you just told that lady, oh, talk to her. I'm going to tell you what I want right now, and I'll make this short and sweet. I want a dedication, and I want transparency. I want you to tell me, and you to tell me, and Skip to tell me where my money's going. I want to audit, and I want it in the next month. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Gustafson. We now have Mr. David Lehman.
Good evening, City Council. My name is David Lehman. I preside at 3802 Texas Avenue, and I've been here for 60 young years. First, I want to talk to you about city charter. These are all questions, by the way, because I don't know the answers to these questions, but they're all around Dickinson. I want to talk about the city charter. I understand that the city charter at some point here in the last couple of years has been changed so that the city manager can buy alcohol and dinner for entertaining developers. In the Chronicle newspaper, it said that he had to socialize with these developers. That doesn't pass a smell test, ladies and gentlemen. Did that happen? Who voted for that? That's what I'd like to know. Who voted for it? We need a little bit of, like the last gentleman said, we need a little transparency here, okay? And we need accountability. I got a couple city council issues. These are questions as well. Oh, by the way, I am speaking under the protection of my constitutional rights tonight. City council issues. One city councilman is supposedly no longer living here in Dickinson, and he's presiding now in Houston, but he hasn't resigned. Don't know if that's true or not. The city manager did talk to the first person that spoke tonight. Maybe we get a little conversation with me tonight, because you did do that, correct? So maybe we can get a little conversation going. The second one is the second problem I have is there's rumor going around about a city councilman employed by a company called ProSource, and he's buying property through ProSource and he's selling it back to the city. Is that happening here in Dickinson? Are we doing that? I mean, is that what's going on? And supposedly that same city councilman is project manager on a couple contracts that the city has with the city councilman. You've got to have an arm's length transaction if you're doing business with the city. You shouldn't be on any project as a manager. You really shouldn't be. I've got all these different questions. So what's going on here? Did the city buy 5 acres on Ohio and then give it to a city councilman because of Little League? Is that what happened? I don't know. Employee turnover, resignations and firings. I'm hearing that's over 100 people have gone in the last 3 years, either by firing or quitting. And then the next one is lawsuits. How many lawsuits do we have against the city right now because some of the management decisions that's going on? And who are we hiring? We're hiring people. We're hiring attorneys that are, maybe they're not the best for real estate. I mean, maybe you ought to do a little bit of homework on who we're hiring, because what I hear, some of them aren't too good at real estate. The last thing I've got is check and balance system. Check and balance system. Thank you. And I'll close up real quick now. The check and balance system, like in the United States Congress, where I lobbied Congress, you got to have a check and balance system. It can't be a one-way street. It's got to be a two-way street. Thank you so much. I'll be back next month.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. We now have John Parker. All right, then we'll go to Kathy Palmer.
My name is Kathy Palmer. I live at 5022 Casa Grande. At least I do today. I have never, ever come to address you or anybody else with no notes, no comments, and I'm in absolute shock at why I'm here. I'm almost in disbelief. I heard yesterday that the petition that has been going around to recall the mayor had been done away with. It was not valid anymore. Is that true? Somebody answer me. Is it true? Please. We have a right to know. We live here too. And if that's what we have, then that's what we have to deal with.
We can't deliberate, though.
Why can't you tell us?
Ma'am, the Texas Open Meetings Act does not allow the council to, the Texas Open Meetings Act does not allow the council to have a discussion with members of the public during public comment. But ma'am, I'm well aware of the question and the matter that you ask about. I am happy to have a discussion with you after this meeting, if you'd like, for as long as you.
Yes, ma'am. From Lake City?
That's correct.
From Lake City. From Lake City. Got fired from New York City. Okay, so let me just finish my question. That's what I heard, and I will find out from somebody on this council somehow, or the city manager, One of you owes somebody in this room the decency of telling us what we worked for in a fair way, in an honest way, in an open and upfront way, with everything out in the open. And we asked people to sign a petition if they agreed with it. I went door to door and I had people that did not understand it. And I explained, you are not voting for or against the mayor. You are simply voting for a petition to recall this so that we could have a vote so that everybody could vote the way they wanted. We weren't trying to intimidate. Nobody that I ever heard of or suspected or even thought of or would even believe lied to people and tried to intimidate them at their front door. I had women that told me they wanted to talk to their husband. I had women that said, I suggested you need to talk to your husband about this if that would make you feel better. Don't sign it if you're not comfortable. And we came out with more than we ever even dreamed we would need. And now all of a sudden I find out, I get up from my kitchen table tutoring a third grader that goes to school in Dickinson, only to find out that the whole thing is they're trying to railroad it and say that was it numbered right? There was some discrepancy in it. Now the law says we have 5 days to correct those mistakes if they in fact exist. We can't even see it. Nobody will let us even see it. We made mistakes, quote, from the city, but we don't know what they are, and we have 5 days from when to fix them. It's not worth me talking.
Thank you, Mrs. Palmer. We now have Scott Schrader.
Scott Schrader, 3719 Kellner. I'll try to keep it short. Y'all have heard me before and you know how I feel about things. To Mr. Gustafson, is that your name?
Yes, sir.
I do know the mayor's listening because I've just got a message. So he's responding about me and saying I'm spreading misinformation. I'm here to get information. So the mayor's listening tonight, okay?
He shouldn't be on the team.
Well, that's fine. I understand he's been sick and that's fine. I don't want anybody exposed, but me too. So I have a few things. Number one, about the petition. If this has already been mailed out, how is it not public information at this point? I don't understand that. And that's a question for the attorney, because if it's gone out in the mail, it should be public information. But the information I got today is no, until somebody receives it, it's not public information. Somebody said they called the post office, said, well, the way things are going now, it's probably going to be Friday before anybody gets anything. So does that affect our timeline? We just need some answers. I want some guidance, and I'd like to sit down with the city attorney. If there's something that we did wrong, we need to know what to correct to fix it, fix the problem. Cheryl Johnson, as most of y'all have seen, I posted on Facebook earlier, she validated over 900 signatures for us. And that's what we thought we had. But for some reason, the story I'm getting from people is it's not valid. I would hope if it is valid, y'all would call a special meeting. Let's get this done in May, because this is going to fester. It's not going to get any better. I'd like to address Sean and his family. Sean says I spread misinformation. If you go to his website, Unite Dickinson, you will see he posts on there about Miss Tammy Steenbarge calling his wife a name. Now, I was out front. I don't like to bring family in, but she interjected herself in this. We're standing out about 12 people on the front steps of City Hall. She comes out, gives Miss Steenbarge the middle finger. Tammy did call her name after that. I don't think that's good behavior on either side. And as far as kids, I'll tell Sean this too. Either side you're on this, kids need to stay out of it, period. I would like to address one other thing. The employees, several employees have talked to me. I don't go out and solicit this stuff, but I get an email the other day that says Theo controls everything at City Hall. When someone such as Ms. Steenbarge places a PIR, Theo, the mayor, and some of the council members huddle around Fran's desk, reading them and laughing. He tells Anna and Fran how to handle them and what information to provide and how to do it. Now, everything else this person tells me is spot on. I witnessed behavior when I sat behind council chambers that I didn't like, and that's one reason I didn't run again. I didn't want to get caught up in this mess. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader. We have Kimberly Rodriguez, but I also see that it's signed up for a specific agenda item. So is it a general comment? So that'll be on that agenda item. All right, next we have Susan Wilcox.
Susan Wilcox, 3611 California Street. In case y'all don't know me, I'm one of the no-name people, according to the Galveston Daily News, that did sign the affidavit. My name is Susan Ann Wilcox. I was named after Susan B. Anthony. So that kind of tells you about my attitude. I've been a resident off and on, mostly on, in Dickinson for 73 years. I've owned several homes, I've owned several pieces of property, and I have for over 75 years. I am one of the 5 which signed the affidavit for the recall. My question is, where's our recall? Where's our response? You had 10 days. There's a very reliable source in the Galveston County that says we have over 934 valid and confirmed signatures. Why is this coming from somebody else besides this office? This controversy will not stop. City Hall, beware. Do your fiduciary duty and your responsibility. Start asking questions. There will be a new election. We are watching. We will not forget. There are many more than 1,150 people that are concerned. Some of them would not sign because of retaliation. They are also watching. We don't want any more excuses. We will not accept any more excuses. We want you to do your job. We want you to ask questions, and we want you to do the right thing. And 1,150 people have asked you to do that. So please do.
And finally, we have Scott Gunderson. Forgive me if I messed up your name.
Hi, Scott Gondison, 1902 Pine Grove in Dickinson. I'll keep my comments brief as well. I just wanted to add to what my neighbor said about our corner of Pine Grove. We moved in there in 2014 and knowing that the streets were bad, but hoping that one day they would get fixed. But it wasn't until obviously we started to experience rains and then Harvey that we came to learn just how bad it really was. So it's not really a new thing. Those potholes have been there forever. One of the things that does also concern me is the bridge that you cross to get to our section of Pine Grove where the streets are particularly bad. You know, the concrete on the bridge itself is crumbling in areas, and I would like to know what kind of maintenance program, or is there a scheduled maintenance to check the integrity of the bridge for one, just to make sure there's not issues there. So that's one thing. And then we've also experienced the same drainage problem in front of our yard. There's a drainage culvert that sticks out pretty far, and if you're not careful, it'll tear your car up. So we have to always watch out for that. And my wife frequently has to go outside and clean out the drains to try and help the rest of the neighborhood flow. So it's been that way for years. And then more recently, we developed a sinkhole in our yard. Our home is right up next to, I believe it's Benson Bayou, first house past the bridge there. And so there was a small sinkhole, and we called somebody, and time went by, a month or two, we didn't hear anything. So I believe we called again, and then just recently we noticed that there were crews out there trying to help with the drainage. So ran out there and caught them and explained what was going on. There was I think a female supervisor, and asked her what can be done about this. And we were also told that good luck, it's not in the budget. Come to city council and, make your concerns known. At that time, the hole was rather small. It was, large enough that if you fell in it, you could break a leg or something. But within a few days after some rains, the hole, another hole appeared next to it that was large enough for several people to get lost in, 10 feet plus deep. So we called them back, and next thing you know, there's major stuff going on with cranes and whatever else heavy equipment. And so they got and apparently there were two different entities involved. It was, one issue was, I think, maybe the city because of the drain pipe. The other had to do with some other entity with drainage. So there were two problems going on. So they fixed that, but our yard is completely destroyed. We had a bulkhead in place to try to stop the erosion off into the bayou, and obviously that stuff hadn't been fixed. So that was my last comment. I'm curious, is there plans for them to come back and address those remaining issues? So, thank you.
Point of inquiry, City Attorney Dim. Are we allowed to ask clarifying questions? I know we can't deliberate, but could we ask a clarifying question? One of the council members wants to know which specific street it is with the issue.
Yes, sir. I don't think that would count as deliberation.
Okay.
Mayor, are you on Pine Grove itself at the dead end to Greenlee Lane, or are you on Cottonwood? We're on Pine Grove. Thank you, ma'am.
All righty. Item 7, consent agenda. The following items are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed after the consent agenda. We have item 7A, consideration and possible action to approve the December 12th meeting minutes. We have an ordinance for consideration and possible action to approve an ordinance altering the prima facie speed limits established for vehicles under the provisions of 545.356. We have a resolution, consideration and possible action regarding supporting the Galveston County Water Control and Improvement District and their request to change their name. And we also have item number 7D, a staff report on the quarterly investment report and financials for period ending June 30, 2023.
I'd like to pull C.
All right, that then just leaves item 7A. I'll entertain a motion for acceptance for item 7A.
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Councilmember Townsend and seconded by Councilmember Schick to approve the meeting minutes for the December 12th, 2023 regular council meeting. Councilmember Townsend and Councilmember Schick. Any discussion? All right, there being none, I call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Item 7B, consideration and possible action to approve an ordinance altering the prima facie speed limits established for vehicles under the provisions of 545.356 Texas Transportation Code upon the basis of an engineering and traffic investigation upon certain streets and highways or of parts thereof within the corporate limits of the city of Dickinson as set out in this ordinance, and providing a penalty of a fine not to exceed $200 for the violation of this ordinance. What is your pleasure?
Are you asking for comments to be made on 7B?
Got to take a motion to discuss it.
Oh, make a motion to discuss 7B.
Move to approve.
Okay, well, there was a motion to discuss, didn't have a second. There's a motion to approve by Councilmember Brantley and a second by Councilmember Simpson. Councilmember Brantley and Councilmember Simpson. All right, any discussion? Councilmember Townsend.
Are we asking for this Are we asking for this or did the state ask for this?
The state asked for it, but it has to come as an ordinance to the city because it's within our jurisdiction. They had done the traffic study and analysis and is requesting that the speed limit be lowered from 50 to 40. And it's not a very long distance, but it's a short distance.
Most of that's 45 out that way anyway.
Yeah, and so I think most of it is they're trying to, like I said, they requested it of us after they had done a traffic impact on it, and they reached out to us and said, they would like for this for consideration of the council to do that. So,
I mean, we have one bad spot out there at the bridge, wrecks all the time. But the rest of I think speed limit should stay the same. If you slow it down with all the traffic, you're just gonna make it harder to get out of here. You can't get in and out of the road. You slow them all down. Half of them will drive 40, half of them will drive 30, and you can't get out now.
So the two changes that were made, since I live over there and I drive that, man, that thing's loud. Anyway, I drive that path. So the first change, the 43 feet east of Georgia Street to the point 490 feet east of West Spring Drive, 25 miles an hour when flashing. I believe it is currently 30 miles per hour, and it's changing to 25. Actually, this is one of the best agenda items I've seen since I've been here because they were engineering documents, so I'm familiar with those. The second issue was the Green Isle Avenue to the east city limit on the change of the city limit to 40 miles an hour. I believe there at the city limits right there west of Gum Bayou, the speed limit is 45 miles an hour, and they're going to be changing it to 40 miles an hour. I would like to just mention that particular sign, that sign there, the 40, which is currently a 45 mile per hour sign on the west side of the Gum Bayou Bridge, is sometimes obstructed by vegetation. So I just wanted to mention that comment. Yeah, but it looks like they're just they're updating these two speed limit signs that are already there by 5 miles an hour each.
And I don't have a problem with the school zone. Don't get me wrong. My problem is farther out, lowering the speed limit down. Right. And they've done this every time they do a study. They want to slow everything down. You can't get around here anymore with all the traffic, and then they slow the speed limits down. They did it on the east and west end of town once before. They've done it in the middle. They've done Pine Drive.
Yeah, I think what it looked like was that the school zones were covering each other. Basically, they're extending it so the high school and the Barber school zones kind of, are connected.
Yeah.
But
I don't have a problem with school zone. We can slow it down, but the rest of it, just regular every day. There's no need to slow the speed limit down.
Any further discussion? All right, there being none, I call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item 7C. Consideration and possible action to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Dickinson, Texas, supporting Galveston County Water and Control Improvement District Number 1 in their request to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to formally change the district's name to Dickinson WCID.
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Councilmember Townsend, seconded by Councilmember Brantley to approve. Councilmember Townsend and Councilmember Brantley. Any discussion?
I just have a question on it. To change the name to WCID, so it's not going to be WCID 1?
Why don't you come on up? Ivan Langford is our distinguished guest here this evening. Come on down, sir.
Ivan Langford, General Manager of Dickinson's Water District. In the request for the name change, the state TCQ very narrowly defines what you can change to. So they tell you, we said we want to be Dickinson. They said, well, it has to be WCID. Okay. And because the one no longer means anything, the reason we have one is because at one time there was Galveston County WCID number 1, number 2.
Right.
That was League City. Number 3 was Lamarck. And so on, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, still around, 12 still around. So there is no other Dickinson WCID, so the one goes away.
Okay, great. That's all I had a question on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. Any further discussion? All right, there being none, I call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item 7D, thank you. Item 7D, staff report, quarterly investment report and financials for the period ending June 30, 2023.
Sarah, make sure. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Sarah. I just want to get Sarah ready.
Move to approve.
All right, it has been properly moved by Councilmember Brantley and seconded by Councilmember Schick to approve. Councilmember Brantley and Councilmember Schick. Discussion.
I got some question.
Councilmember
You got
Council-
your sheet? You got your sheet with you? I just had a few questions on the maintenance of the, let's see, the maintenance one, street maintenance.
Yes, sir.
Looks like we're over 493,000.
Yes.
Contract services.
That includes repairs of a sinkhole, repairs of various heavy equipment.
Specifically, the project that put us over budget on that was the Cheyenne subdivision.
Okay. So
That's almost 100% of it.
Is that Cheyenne or the Caroline?
Inside Cheyenne.
The
If you
drainage pipes.
remember, you know how they had to go
Yeah.
through every one of them. Yes, sir.
And then the Bayou Mason public improvement number 3
Mhm.
is over budget by 119,000. Did it not bring in enough revenue that it was supposed to?
I believe that one, I'll have to check on that and get back with you, but that one, PID number 3 actually was over budget currently on the assessments.
So it's got more in there than it's supposed to
Yes.
have.
Yes, sir.
And then the 92, same thing. It's over what it was supposed to bring in
Yes.
or in the expenditures. All right, and library repairs, I think is the last
Yes.
one.
Correct.
Is that all of us is going to be that 164? We
No,
have some more money
there's additional that'll be on the fourth quarter report.
for the library?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. On that one there, just to remind council a little bit, because it's been kind of ongoing, the repair. The foundation had shifted so much that we had gotten to a place where ceiling tiles were starting to fall out of the ceiling. And, there had been a repair many years ago that failed. This time we're trying to do a much more permanent fix, but we also had to put in some funding for actually repairs inside of the building just for aesthetics purposes, because there were some major defects to the interior because of that shifting foundation. So yes, there will be some in that fourth quarter report that will be coming, and a lot of it is going to be dealing with a lot of the interior work that we were doing and finishing up the foundation, because when we got in there, the foundation had shifted enough that we actually had, and when they were trying to do the repairs, when they actually re-lifted the foundation, those pipes that were underneath, were under such stress, they just broke as soon as the pressure released. So you'll see that as well.
All right, I was just curious. Thank you.
Out of curiosity, PID 3, is that the one that was brought in place like 3 or 4 years ago that 100% goes to the developer? Is that the one?
Yes, that would be, yes, that one there, and that one is purely for infrastructure reimbursement. Everything is for them to reimburse for having put in the water, sewer, and other things in there.
Okay. All right. I just remembered that off the top of my head. I thought I'd ask. All right. Is there any further discussion? All right. If there's none, I call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item 8, public hearings and action items for public hearings. 8A, conduct a public hearing concerning a request to amend the official zoning map from neighborhood commercial zoning district to general commercial zoning district for approximately plus or minus 0.70 acres located at 2020 Highway 3, legally described as Abstract 19, Perry and Austin, cert lot of 10, part of lot 9, lot 8 block, and West Point foot lot 7 block of Moore's Addition, and lot 1 block 131 Moore's Addition. We are now convening a public hearing at 7:22. Staff presentation.
Okay, good evening. This is for 2020 Highway 3 for a zoning. The applicant's requesting a zoning map amendment. The applicant is Jimmy Vo. The property is on the west side of Highway 3 at the northeastmost boundary of the city. It includes 5 lots, 4 that face Highway 3 and 1 that faces Avenue F. The use is to change the zoning from neighborhood commercial to general commercial, and the property owner would like to build a convenience store with a gas station.
Before, did you have a record of the vote from P and Z?
The P&Z was, I believe it was unanimous. But
Which way?
I don't have it with me.
That's me.
It's here. So, it was unanimously approved.
Okay, just want to make sure.
All right. Next item is applicant presentation. Do we have any comments from the applicant? All right. If there are none, next is public comments. No one signed up for public comments on this, and so there's no need for an applicant rebuttal. I will adjourn the public hearing at 7:24. Item 9, ordinances. Consideration and possible 9A, consideration and possible action concerning a request for a specific use permit for group home in a conventional residential zoning district for approximately plus or minus 0.304 acres located at 2013 Dietz Road, legally described as Abstract, Perry and Austin, lot 88 Dickinson Addition D. This is the first reading.
I'll make a motion to deny.
I'll second that.
All right, it has been moved and properly seconded for a motion to deny this item by Councilmember Townsend and seconded by Councilmember Schick. Councilmember Townsend, Councilmember Schick. Point of order. There are 2 people signed up for public comments and there wasn't a spot for a hearing. Do they speak now?
Yes, sir. They should speak before deliberation.
Okay, we'll start with R.E. Davis.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, I'm Dr. Ari Davis, 2910 Spirit of 76 Drive, Dickinson, Texas, 77539. I've come to speak before you before, and I would ask once again for you to vote to deny this consideration and possible action. I believe that it will fundamentally change the characteristics of the neighborhood, and I would prefer to keep our residential neighborhood residential. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Next is Kimberly Rodriguez.
Hello, I know that there was some additional information that was presented, and we presented it to Ms. Ron Briscoe, and I believe that she said that she submitted that. But it does provide the actual map survey that shows that the property, which is 2013. And so
May you lower your mic just a little bit closer to your mouth? May you lower your mic just a little bit closer so we can hear you better?
Sorry. Yeah, so the survey map for property 2013 shows that 2013 is not a part of Spirit 76 Drive, which were most of the comments and items that were acted on was based on feedback from the actual voluntary HOA. But the map that we actually presented does verify that property 2013 deeds is not part of Spirit of 76 Drive. And also just wanted to just kind of reiterate and ask that everyone to actually consider granting this this SUP. And so my background and my passion, I'm a former state inspector for assisted living and adult programs, social worker. I was born and raised in assisted living. And so this family, I've had opportunity, and I know that they provide great care for this facility that has been operating legally under the actual state code. And I'm just asking that you all would please consider, I believe that this is giving a good justice to the community. I believe that the residents that are there, because they don't have family that are close by, and this is the only family that they consider. And so I'm asking that you all please consider approving this. Thank you.
All right, discussion.
I had a question concerning the staff recommends approval with conditions. Planning and Zoning Commission failed to recommend approval with conditions. And it also says Planning and Zoning Commission recommends the conditions as recommended by staff by unanimous vote. So those seem to conflict with each other, where the Planning and Zoning Commission failed to recommend approval and then recommends it as suggested by staff. So there's a conflict there.
So if you and it is confusing, I had to kind of walk through it myself. So what you have is that the initial staff recommendation was to allow kind of that whole list of things, and that the occupancy be no more than 8 unrelated people. The planning and zoning denied that and replaced it with, it shouldn't, maybe there's a better way we could have worded it, but they basically put all those same conditions, but changed it from 8 to 6 as the new occupancy load of unrelated people. So that's what planning and zoning did approve. That's what they amended. So I know it's worded crazy. I agree.
That was all I had.
Okay. Any other discussion? So I have some interesting thoughts about this. We've kind of been down this road before, particularly with group homes. Staff comes up with accommodations, and then it either gets denied by planning and zoning or eventually denied by council. Then they take us to district court and we lose because the federal government is weighed in on group homes on a consistent basis. And then we lose the ability to even negotiate with them. And they can, that's what's happened since I've been on council before. It's not taking a chance. It's not being scared of something. This is what has happened anytime we've denied a group home. I understand the people wanting their neighborhood to maintain a certain character. I understand people not wanting to have a business in their neighborhood. I definitely understand that. As was said last time, not by me, but by other people when we ended up losing this similar situation, that takes people reaching out to their congressperson and their representative, because this is sort of a pattern. But that's just my thoughts on it. I'm just one vote, but we've kind of been through this pattern before when it comes to group homes. Deny, deny, deny. They go to district court, they win. We come back, and now we can't even limit in the number of people in the house or even work with them. And especially interesting when somebody comes to work with us first. as opposed to getting caught operating without it. But the issue is still the same.
I thought on this one, they were already operating.
Yeah, this one was, I believe, operating, and what happened was, and had been around for a while, and they were looking at expanding, but had to do some work in the house, and so after some questioning of the staff, it was kind of brought to their attention that there's an SUP process, and from what I understand, and Todd, you can tell me if it's different than this, but basically, as soon as they were kind of made aware of an SUP process, they've kind of gone through that SUP process. On the conditions here, a couple of things that I do want to highlight is the accommodations for fire safety were big, just because if there is going to be a high occupancy of people, you obviously want to have fire line and sprinkled opportunities, and to echo a little bit of Councilmember Simpson's deal is that if this ends up being overturned, if we deny it and it gets overturned at court, then all those accommodations don't have to be followed, just because there are some, there's pretty strong case law to that effect. So but that's kind of the history of it, is that it was operating, but I think it was kind of like with related people, and I'm not going to get into that, but anyway, when they were going for an expansion and it was brought to their attention, they began the SUP process.
I'd also like to add, Mayor Pro Tem Simpson had mentioned that there's some laws that essentially supersede our ability to take action in some circumstances. The Fair Housing Act is, I believe, what he is referencing, and it has an entire subsection on zoning group homes, and I believe that we're working on modifying ordinances to more closely reflect the language, the legal terminology that's used at the state level, to allow us some flexibility with this. But as it currently is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, legal counsel, because I read the Fair Housing Act, all of it, and this entire section basically, will override the decision that we make. So it's a very difficult decision. As the two times it's come before me in the past, there is no win-win solution with this. It's all a matter of who you're going to upset, as I see it. And so anyway, I just wanted to mention that it is defined in the Fair Housing Act. So if you're interested, and also Mayor Pro Tem Simpson had mentioned, contact your congressman. It is because it is at the level above us at the federal and the state level. So anyway, just FYI.
Any further discussion? All right, if there's being none, I'll call for the vote. Just for clarity purpose, voting in favor denies it. Voting against it approves it.
No, sir, it actually doesn't approve it, which I like to see the boards that I am counsel to make motions in the affirmative, such that if the motion to approve fails, then that is, in fact, a denial. Here, the motion's made in the negative, so it's a motion to deny. The converse is not true. So if the motion to deny fails, it is not an approval. The floor would be open again for, at that point, if that's how it happens, for a motion to approve.
All right, there being none, no further discussion, I call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. For deny, yes.
Okay. I had a, yeah, I had to. Uh-huh. All right. That's Brantley, Townsend, and Schick. Those opposed, Linton, Simpson, and Simpson. Motion fails. I have a funny feeling and a sneaky suspicion that another motion in the affirmative would probably yield the same results. So I am going to move on to item 10.
discussion?
Well,
We've
there's
already voted.
correct. There's been a motion. It's still an open item in that it's not disposed of finally because there was not a motion to approve that failed. It's a motion to deny that failed. So it can come back on a subsequent agenda, or like I said, the floor is open for a motion to approve, but that's the council's wishes.
Also, I'd like to mention that I mistakenly voted to approve in the negative, and so I was voting to approve in the positive. So, because I had mistakenly raised my hand, so I want to make sure that's clarified.
So you wanted the motion to deny to fail.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was 3-3. So yeah, it failed. All right. Item 10, action items from consideration and possible action to approve the presentation regarding the economic disaster mitigation plan as presented by Tony Al Linder of Halls Hill and Associates.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Brantley and seconded by Councilmember Linton. Councilmember Brantley and Councilmember Linton. I believe there's a present.
Yes, we have Tony Allender with Halls Hill. Come on up, sir. He's been working with the Economic Development Corporation in the city on their economic development strategic plan, while also this is part 2 now. We're in the economic disaster mitigation plan. And so that's what Tony is presenting tonight. Just so you know, as kind of a context of where the EDC is on this disaster mitigation plan, they reserved they decided not to do a final vote until you guys had this kind of presentation presented to you. If there was something that was just kind of way out there that you didn't like, they would, instead of them approving it and then you guys approving with changes, then they have to go back and approve with changes. They just said, hey, send it up to the council. If they have any comments, they can send it back to us. But if you do like it as is, if y'all approve it, then they'll just memorialize it at the EDC. But this is what they are wanting you guys to see.
But under this though, it says that we're approving a presentation. We're not approving a plan.
Correct. That was kind of worded wrong. Would they still be able to approve the plan under that? Does it give sufficient notice?
Yes, I think that gives sufficient notice.
Very good. First off, thank you for the opportunity to present to you tonight. I will be brief in the presentation. It's a series of 15 slides, but we'll move through fairly quickly. So this is the economic disaster mitigation plan. It corresponds to your economic development strategic plan. So what is an economic disaster? It's a sudden and substantial downturn in the local economy that's spurred by an economic shock. An economic shock can be the result of anything from a flood to a pandemic to a freeze or major job losses, you name it. So this is fairly new in the disaster mitigation process. And it's something that was discovered as a result of the pandemic, honestly. Realization that in order to protect our businesses best, we may be finding gaps in our disaster mitigation services. So filling this gap, you can see in the slide that the intention was to be able to find that you have your emergency management plan, the Galveston County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Both of those are designed to save lives and property. Your Economic Development Strategic Plan focuses on livelihood and prosperity, and therein lies the difference. There was a gap in the middle of those, and that's what this Economic Disaster Mitigation Plan is really intended to address and fill. The Economic Disaster Mitigation Plan follows, to some degree, the hazard mitigation plan process that's already been put in place. So you have 5 steps. You have your community profile, identification of potential economic hazards, the worst case scenarios, and capability of assessment of Dickinson and its partners to respond, and then strategies to address some of those issues. The community profile of this document compiles information from a variety of sources, including your comprehensive plan, including your economic development strategic plan, and various others, and then also adds additional information to look at 4 different aspects of the community. The people, the businesses themselves, the built environment that includes your actual building structures, your roads, infrastructure, et cetera, and then what we call your economic infrastructure, which is your codes. It's going to be your incentive programs, your response systems, et cetera. We also went through the process, as mentioned, of identifying hazards and assessing risks. Those hazards, we came up with 5. All of them are going to be relatively familiar, natural or man-made events, the obvious, floods, hurricanes, you name it, risk assessment there being high. And when we say high, we're talking about the impact to your business community and the individuals that are employees to those businesses. Second being pandemic. Third being a major closure or industry shift. Could be anything from, again, we've talked about Energy 2.0 with the shift in the energy sector. What that means is still ongoing. National, international events or actions, acts of terrorism, acts of war, subprime mortgage market crisis, those types of indications you have no control over, but it certainly impacts your businesses. And then the 5th being a depression or a deep recession, such as the Great Recession that occurred as a result of the subprime mortgage market crisis. We took each one of these different scenarios, each one of those different risks, and then looked at a worst case scenario that it could occur on each one. So essentially looking at things that have occurred before, for example, in the pandemic, expanded on the impact of that, localized it to Dickinson, Great Recession for, looked at what we called Snowmageddon 2.0 for the freeze, hurricanes and the oil and gas crisis. Those were the 5 different worst case scenarios we presented. And we do those so that we can stress the system. So we can look at it and we can say, okay, how is the local system able to respond to these types of events? And we do it in a way that makes it really hurt in the worst case scenario so we can see how well you're going to be able to respond in a worst case scenario. Then we go through that process of looking at the different needs that occur as a result of each one of those different worst case scenarios or one of those hazard situations occurs. And then based on that, we look at the resources that the city has, as well as its partners, in its ability to respond, its response network. And then from reviewing that information, come back with a series of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges in your ability to respond. In this process, it very closely mirrors the hazard mitigation program that's already in place. From there, we're able to develop mitigation strategies. And we look at this in tandem with your economic development strategic plan, because your economic development strategic plan on its own is already a resilience plan that is designed so that you can put things in place so that your community can perform better in the local economy. But then we also look at the 4 different steps of what happens in a hazard. Your ability to mitigate and plan in advance, your ability to prepare in advance of something happening, responding to that during the event, and then recovering after the event. And so from there, we have a series of 19 different recommendations that we have made. For mitigation recommendations, a couple to start with, making resilience a critical marketing strategy. And one of the comments that we have made in this process is during Hurricane Harvey and after Hurricane Harvey, we heard very strongly the Dickinson Strong comment and being able to pull ourselves up and rebound from this. And we need to be thinking of that in advance and being able to look at it as a way to build our resiliency and market that in advance of a process so that you're hardening your infrastructure, et cetera, in advance of something happening that's going to impact your business sector. The second piece, establishing a blue sky structure and site incentive program. And the idea behind this is during the good times, look at ways that our businesses can be hardened. Say, for example, the possibility of power outages. How do we work with maybe the local businesses can apply for incentive grants so that they can get temporary power in place or solar power in place or something that can help them during that gap that they may have to struggle through. Second, or third rather, training for economic events. We already do this as part of your emergency management process. There's already training and scenarios programs that your staff already go through in preparation for events like a hurricane. This says to take that same thing and apply it to an economic shock as well, and just add that to your training process. Number 5, implementing mitigation capital projects, both big and small. A great example of that, Councilmember Schick was talking about earlier about the ditches. Those are some of the smaller capital projects. Obviously, some of the bigger capital projects could be large-scale regional detention. They could be improvements to roadways, you name it. But thinking in advance again and preparing. And some of these you're already doing. It just puts that on steroids. Leveraging funding for mitigation. And this requires additional thinking beyond what you already have available to you. It looks at your hazard mitigation plan or at your ability to get mitigation grants. But also looks at other non-traditional sources, TCEQ, for example, TxDOT, for example, and utilizing those resources to harden your infrastructure again in preparation for any economic shock that could come. During the preparation stage, again, we have 6 different recommendations. First, and probably most important, is promoting the continuity of operations and emergency plans. These are not necessarily in priority order. If they were, this would be number 1. And we learned this early on, that if our businesses don't have that continuity plan in place, then they're already at a disadvantage when something happens. And so really helping to promote that is going to be very critical for their ability to withstand economic shocks. So that's an important piece. This helps to promote that. Adding emergency order language to development codes. This essentially allows for the city's ability to pivot quickly during an economic shock. So in this case, it's adding language to your development codes that would allow your city administrator to very quickly adapt. Say, for example, in the pandemic, what we found was the ability of businesses to take over some of those parking spaces and convert that into outdoor dining spaces in some communities turned out to be a blessing for them, because they were able to quickly maneuver and take advantage of things where they had to pivot. And so rather than going through a lengthy process for an emergency situation, it allows this to move very quickly. The same thing with your emergency permitting and process policy is a recommendation to then have something in place. So immediately upon a disaster or in preparation for disaster, you're able to immediately pivot into an emergency permitting process so that after that event occurs, people can start moving through very quickly. Number 9, maintaining staff expertise in facets of economic shock. You already do this type of training, again, for emergency management, but expanding that training so it's also understanding the different aspects of economic development and understanding groups like small business as it's recommended in the Economic Development Strategic Plan, and being able to be able to understand and respond to their needs during a shock. Build a regional information and outlook network. Again, this is just collaboration with all the different resources, because if it's going to happen to you, there's a really good chance that it's happening to the region. So from the economics perspective, working together to be able to share information. For example, Energy 2.0, if we start to see things that are impacting our economic outlook in oil and gas, we need to be aware of and start to prepare for that. 11, prioritize high speed and internet service delivery and just make sure that that's available, because as we have found out, we have more and more people looking to be able to work remotely or have home-based businesses. This has become a much more critical thing in the last couple of years. In the response stage, establishing an economic disaster emergency response structure. I would say this is the second most important recommendation out of this plan. You have in your emergency plan or emergency management plan a response structure in place to immediately begin to respond to needs. What we're suggesting is you have the same response structure in place for economic disaster emergency responses. It's just that the group might be a little bit different because the levels of expertise are different. Number 13, institute a mobile distribution network for supplies. Same thing as it would apply for your traditional emergency management, but you're thinking of the needs of your business community and also delivering services and goods to them as well for economic shocks. The last piece in the recovery stage, creating a holistic financial assistance program. would be something relatively new during that period of time that you have before federal funds become available. Being able to have a program potentially worked out with the banking program where you can do short-term loans to help cover that gap until the federal funds come is an important piece to the puzzle. So again, it's just looking for each gap that's potentially there and being able to address it. Pivoting special finance funding for economic recovery projects. You have your reinvestment zones, your management district, and other financial tools. Each one of those can have a preparation where you can immediately turn around and start to use your management district funds for job training programs or for capital improvements. Reinvestment zone has to stay within a certain area, but it can also be working on some of those different programs. So it's, again, just knowing what your resources are and being able to pivot immediately to be able to take advantage of those programs to help. 16, implementing a collaborative job training and skills program, just recognizing that this also impacts employees and being able to, again, pivot to the best extent possible, get them back into the workforce quickly. Developing a single-stop business recovery and resource center. Again, if you've got individuals that are home-based business or they can't get to offices, for their ability to come in and immediately find a place, whether it's at the library, whether it's at schools, you name it. Similarly, one or more business resource hubs, places that would be in place where if I can't take my Zoom calls, then again, the school district may have a spot where I can come in and take advantage of being able to work at a location while my location is being repaired. So, and number 19 is going to be temporary power. And being able to make sure that you have resources available for temporary power to immediately be able to deliver, whether that's going to be through solar, whether that's going to be through other types of resources, you name it. The ability to have things in place to, again, keep your business community up and running as quickly as possible with the fewest bumps possible is going to be critical. So the last piece of this and the last part of the plan itself is an implementation program that goes through each one of these items. It also goes through and restates the 26 recommendations in the Economic Development Strategic Plan, but it does it by who the owner should be, roughly the cost of it, who potential partners should be as well, and roughly the timing of them. So I would encourage each of you, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, take a look at it. It's pretty detailed, but it's meant to be in those regards. So this essentially is the Economic Disaster Mitigation Plan. Some of these recommendations seem fairly common sense from their ability to quickly do them. Others are going to be a little more costly and a little more time consuming. So that's what we've got. I went through that wicked fast. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Allender.
Certainly.
Any questions?
Could you repeat all that?
Councilmember Townsend.
So this is a plan. There's nothing in there that says we have to do anything.
No, there's nothing that says, and that's where it's like your hazard mitigation plan from your Galveston County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. The idea is to give you solutions that you can do. You may not be able to do any of them, or you may decide not to do any of them. And that's not going to, it's not going to hurt you per se, as much as you're right. It's, these are recommendations we make that can help improve your opportunity in the future.
Why I ask that? Because the way it was written up, we were approving your presentation.
Sure.
Now they want to shift it to, we're going to approve this plan.
Sure.
And I want to make sure there's nothing in here that ties my hands or anybody else's in his hand. It's just a guideline.
It's a guide.
Yeah.
It's a guide with recommendations of things that we would encourage you to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of this kind of work going on around the county, and I would assume the state as well. Some of my work with the Galveston County Long-Term Recovery Group, we're drafting what we call blue sky plans, just in case, and then also the county emergency management. And this is something everybody has kind of thought with Harvey and the pandemic and all of these things. You used to spin up teams and programs and plans, and then once the vaccine came out or the water resided or whatever the disaster went away, those programs and plans used to go away, and you had to keep reinventing the wheel next time something happened. And so this is on par with some of the rest of the work I'm seeing going on around the county, having something in place ahead of time. and you're not right, you're not married to it, but you want to have something in place as opposed to trying to build it from scratch.
Yep. The other added value to this is it sets you up better for grants and for, pursuit with partnerships, et cetera. So
Center for Disaster Philanthropy loves this kind of stuff. So does FEMA.
Absolutely.
All right. If there aren't any more questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 10B, consideration and possible action regarding the appointment of the city's representative to the Dickinson Volunteer Firefighters Retirement Board of Trustees.
And I'll probably let Councilmember Townsend kind of take the lead on it. He was the one that had brought this agenda item up, but I did want to make council members aware that historically the city's representative, as far as I can recall, has been Louis Decker for many years. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Councilmember Townsend.
Yeah, got brought up to me a couple of weeks ago, and I got brought up to me again this morning after one of our calls. Every 2 years, I think it is, they have to replace some of these people. And it's time to reappoint Louis Decker is the current representative from the city. I think Walter Wilson was doing it before Louis took over. So Louis is the current one. So if y'all want to leave him that way, I'll make a motion to leave Decker in that position.
Does he want to stay in that position? Do we know?
Yeah, he enjoys that stuff.
Did you make the motion?
Yeah, motion to leave Decker in that position.
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Councilmember Townsend and seconded. I heard Brantley first. Councilmember Townsend and Brantley. Any discussion? Just for my clarity, it does not have to be a sitting person on city council, because it seems like that was the pattern. I don't want to.
I know it was a pattern. Let me check real quick, just to check. I don't believe so when I was looking through the ordinance, but I'm gonna go ahead and check real quick for us, just to.
Best of my knowledge, they didn't say it had to be somebody sitting on council or anything.
Absolutely, yeah.
I will say it says right here in the ordinance background, state law requires the Board of Trustees be maintained by state law. The board is made up of 3 members of the volunteer fire department, 2 residents of the city appointed by the volunteer fire department, and 1 member representing the governing body.
Okay, so, well, then I guess.
I don't know that.
Well, I'm trying to see.
Nim, I would default to you, because that doesn't say that it has to be a council person. It just
Correct.
says there's an individual that represents
That
the governing
represents the
body.
city council, correct?
I guess that's what he's questioning, is that by saying representing the governing bodies, I mean, it has to be Walter's in the back there. Hold on one second. Let's let Nim speak on it real quick, sir.
I do not think that language requires that it be a member of the council.
You know the rules. State your name, where you live, and why you're here.
Walter, I know you've never done this before, so.
First off, I don't know why I'm here.
Sit down.
My name is Walter Wilson. I live at 4411 Galveston Avenue. Now, when this was established, it was a council member. The first one was you, Mark Townsend. I replaced you. Yes, it was. All right, if you look.
Arm wrestle.
Huh?
Well, I got asked if I wanted to do it, and I said no.
Well, like I said, but I replaced you when you stepped off the council to run for mayor.
Really, I don't think I was there on it, but okay.
Yeah, that was back 2008. So we all get a little slippery in memory of that.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting old.
Yeah. Anyway, and I think it was established that way when this board was put together. Because we were the ones that represented council and had to usually come back and present the case to the city administrator or city manager now as to why the increase was necessary.
So I guess that this would be the first time it's not a city council member, but based on the language, it doesn't preclude it, that option.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We do not have any executive session items, and so we don't have any actions from executive session. Item 13 is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Townsend and seconded by Councilmember Brantley to adjourn. Councilmember Townsend and Councilmember Brantley. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Good evening.